Hi, I'm Christopher Walker with Closely Observed Teaching. In this video, I'm going to look at my top 5 FutureLearn courses. And these are the best 5 courses that I've done since I started on the FutureLearn Unlimited subscription scheme back in about October time. So I've done about 13 of these courses. I've got about 3 or 4 on the go at the moment. And of those 3 or 4 that are on the go, there are a couple that would actually make it into my top 5, I think, if I was to, if I'd finished them before making this video. But I can save it for the next update. If you're interested, those 2, the one is about applied linguistics, and that's with the University of Leicester. It's a really good introduction to the subject. So if you are an EFL teacher like me, I really recommend that one. And the other one is an Open University course about writing fiction. The discussion boards are really humming. There's so much activity there, and that's one of the things that makes that one really worthwhile. There are a lot of people out there that really want to get into writing, and that means that you get a lot of kind of feedback and good ideas from different people. So, I mean, FutureLearn courses live and die on the strength of the discussion boards, and in both of those cases, they're living. That's not been the case with all of the courses, but I'm not here to talk about the negatives. I'm here to talk about the positives. Before I get to my top 5, I want to give an honourable mention to Teaching Phonics in Early Childhood. This is a short course offered by Queensland University of Technology. The reason it doesn't quite get into my top 5 is that it was just too short. It's about a 2-week course. I think I completed it in about 2 hours, maybe a bit less. But it was really interesting. It's talking about phonology and phonetics and how you can teach young children to read in English through phonics methods. So the theory was all there, but one of the things I really liked was you go into this little kind of app through the browser. You have a word and you have to use the phonetic script to then spell out the word using all of these weird squiggly shapes. It was a challenge. It kind of showed me that I've still got a lot of work to do. I know the phonetic alphabet pretty well, but I'm not very good at phonetic transcriptions yet, and it is an area that I need to improve on. So thanks to that course, that's raised my awareness. So let's get into it. The top 5 courses that I've done so far with FutureLearn. So these are all courses that I've completed in the last 3.5 months or so. Now the criteria for selection here, I wanted something that was a good course just on its own. It has to be a good course. That was the first thing. Second thing is, I wanted it to be something that was really interesting for me, something that I enjoyed doing. So this is all very subjective, as I'm sure you would be expecting. But the final criterion was I wanted to find courses that would affect my teaching in some way, either by making me a better teacher or by giving me something that I could use directly in the classroom with maybe just a little bit of changes. I like to find FutureLearn courses to use with my more advanced students. I find that it gives us a good framework in a sense that you don't get from a course book. There's a greater sense of community through FutureLearn than you could ever get in a course book. So I have actually used some of these in my own classes and they have been successful. So here's me blabbering on, 3.5 minutes in already. Gosh, you'd think I was a YouTuber. So number 5 in my list is Incarceration, Are Prisons a Suitable Punishment? And this was presented by the University of Leeds. So I did this course because I had a student who was really interested in legal English, but she wasn't really a lawyer. She was interested in going into legal English in the future. So she didn't have a very good grounding necessarily, a pretty good grounding, but not a very technical grounding in the sort of vocabulary and structures that you need to go through a legal English course book, like if you were preparing a student for the ILEC, the International Legal English Certificate that Cambridge offer or used to offer, can't remember. So this was a great first step. We looked at the result that might come about from a trial. Somebody could go to prison. What are the justifications for that to happen? Why would people go to prison? Is it right that they do? There are so many areas to discuss and debate here. The presentation quality was excellent, so it never became too dry or too boring. The articles were about the right length. We had a range of accents and backgrounds from the people presenting the course. So all in all, it was a lot of fun and a very useful experience both for me and the student that I was doing the course with. Number 4 in the list is the NHS Explained: How the Health System in England Really Works. And this was by somebody called the King's Fund, which is like a charity or something like that. This was fantastic. It was a very, very slickly presented program that showed you the ins and outs of the NHS, where it came from, where it's going, how it's organised, and how people don't always understand how it's organised. And this is why you end up with people going to accident and emergency when actually that's not the best place for them. Lots of discussion topics. Lots of kind of British culture, or at least English culture centred stuff. I mean, the NHS works slightly differently in Scotland, so it's not universally applicable. But I have a lot of students who are hoping one day to move to England or to Britain to study. They want to go to university there, and they may well need to use the NHS in the future. So understanding how it works and understanding why it's so important in British culture, I think this made this course a very valuable one to go through. So I learned something about it, and I can imagine using it with a lot of my students. Number 3 in my countdown is a course presented by Griffith University. And this is an Australian university, and actually the top 3 courses were all provided by Australian universities or institutes or something like that. They know how to make these MOOCs down in Australia, it seems. So anyway, number 3, music psychology. Why does Bohemian Rhapsody feel so good? I think this was pretty much the first course that I did after I paid for the unlimited subscription service on FutureLearn. And I went through this course with a couple of my students, both of whom had very strong interests in music. They both go to music school, so they knew a lot of the terminology here, but the discussion points were really well worth exploring. They got a lot from that. We got some nice vocabulary. You know, one of the things I like is when you have a student who has real interest in something and you find something in English that connects with those interests, they're much more motivated to learn the vocabulary that they need to talk about those interests. And in a course book, when you're looking at either music or the psychology of music, you end up with vocabulary that is so pedestrian. You know, guitar, drums, piano, stuff like that. But in this course, you learn words like frisson, which is the kind of when your hair stands up on end because you have that kind of the thrill of a piece of music. So by giving my students the language that they needed so that they could talk about this area, it really worked wonders on their motivation levels, but also on the quality of the English they were producing. They were never having to search for the right word because the right word was there. They could use it. So yeah, that was a really good course. Number 2, the runner-up out of this early best 5. What does it mean to be human? An introduction to the humanities. This was with the University of Newcastle, Australia. So again, this was actually suggested to me by one of my students. What we did was we brought up a list of courses that were available that we could go straight into. We wanted something that would give us plenty of discussion points in the classroom, but we also wanted meaningful input connected to humanities, to art and music, literature, poetry, plays, everything like that. So this is what really motivated us to go through this course. And I'm so glad that we did, because I've been through these kind of introduction to humanities courses before, and they're good, they're interesting, but they always take things from the Western canon. They don't tend to have a more kind of global perspective. So doing this course with a university in Australia, when the focus was on Australian culture and the history, for example, the history of art and artistic interpretations of Australia, it revealed both to me and to my student some things that we had never really thought about before. So you get to take the things that you know and apply them to a novel situation. And if that's not learning, I don't know what is. It was very, very good, very well presented as well. And any course that references John Berger, or Berger, I think, and gets you reading his work, it's a course worth doing. And finally, number 1 on my course, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I was going to make a top 5 courses that I'd done since October. This one I actually did about a year ago, and I paid to upgrade it. One of the reasons that I'm doing the unlimited subscription thing for a year is because it cost me $200 to get the unlimited service, but to upgrade this one course was like $44 or something like that. It means that I keep that course forever, and I will go back to it again and again because it has helped me. It's not something that's really helped my students, and I've not used it in any classes yet, but I could do. So what is it? Well, it's again an Australian institute. It's the University of Wollongong, and it is their research writing, how to do a literature review. Now, about 2 years ago, I started a distance learning master's course with the University of Leicester in applied linguistics. This is one of the reasons I'm enjoying their MOOC on the topic, actually. It's good revision. And I've had to learn all the skills of the academic. It's a long time since I left university, and I don't know how these things work. And even when I was at university, I very rarely went to the library. I did a degree in physics, and I sucked at it. I want to do well on this course, and that means learning academic skills as much as it means actually applying them. And this was a very good introduction. The master's that I'm doing with the University of Leicester is a good master's, but it's kind of hands-off in a lot of ways. There's a lot of material that we're given to read through, but the discussion boards on the master's program are pretty quiet, and they don't have this kind of almost remedial focus in a way. I needed to go back to basics to see how literature reviews work. I needed to know what one was for a start. And now that I'm coming up to my final kind of dissertation level assignment for the Masters, this course is going to prove to be worth its weight in gold. I'm certain of it. Lots of technical information, things that you can do, recommending things like Mendeley, which was something I'd never heard of before, but this is a little kind of plug-in for Word and other things, so it helps you keep track of your bibliography and things like that. Yeah, I got so much from it. I was overjoyed when I got my printed certificate in the post. It was quite an accomplishment for me. I was very happy. I know it's a MOOC and you can't really fail. You have to just finish the course, but there was a lot going on this course, and I felt like working hard on it, I actually deserved to pass it. So that was really good. Okay, so that's that. Those are the top 5 and a couple of other honourable mentions. Has it been worth doing so far? That's a good question, I suppose. Well, I would say yes. I'm pretty happy that I've spent the money. It would be nice to still have that money in my bank account, of course, but if you average it out, I've done, let's say 10, looking at my list, 10 good courses. 10 courses that I'm glad to have done and that I would have paid maybe, I don't know, $10, $15 to get a certificate for, or to keep the access to. So, okay, that's maybe $150 worth of content so far, but I've still got until October on this program. I should imagine that I'm going to get close to 30, maybe 35 courses by the time my year's subscription runs out. It will prove to have been worthwhile, absolutely. And that's it. How about you? Have you done any good courses on FutureLearn? I'm looking for new things to study, maybe something out of the ordinary, something that I wouldn't normally approach as a course to take. If you've got any ideas, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to do the usual YouTuber things, you know, like and subscribe and stuff like that. It does kind of help, I have to be honest. I hate kind of, you know, shilling for it, but this is the way it goes on YouTube, isn't it? So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're on FutureLearn, good studies. I'll see you around.